Such an honor to have you here. Let's get going. All right, everyone. Welcome to day one of the Living in Alignment immersion. I'm Kara Librock, your host, and I am an intuitive counselor with a background in Ayurvedic studies as well as Tantra and yogic studies. What led me there was the pursuit of my true nature. And naturally, that expanded into my cosmic nature. And now here I am, steeped in the studies of astrology and living my purpose, how I'm meant to be serving the world. And I'm so excited to be bringing this immersion to you. My intention behind this is to showcase four incredible humans who I admire deeply, who are living in alignment, experiencing a joy-filled life of expansion, continuously breaking through glass ceilings, aka they are living the fuck out of their natal chart. So I'm really excited to welcome our first interviewee, day one. Here we are with Elyse Vickers. Elyse, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm so honored and so excited to dive in.
Okay, so I want to offer a proper introduction and an honoring of you. So, diving in without further ado, Elyse is the creator and founder of the Courage Project, a community and a container that holds high achieving women when they are in transition, when they are transforming from inconsistent and disconnected to strong, confident, unfuck-with-able. And all of this is done through holistic fitness coaching. Elyse views fitness as the gateway to reclaiming our personal power and living our most aligned lives. You can often find her enjoying ice cream or coffee dates with her girlies, long walks at the beach. She is currently nomadic and she is 1000% comfortable with pushing the edges of her comfort. Would you say that feels resonant?
Yeah, like that pretty much sums it up, especially the ice cream part. But yeah.
I'm so happy that you're here. And I just want to go right into this incredible combination of earth and fire that you have. Elyse is a Virgo rising, and she's got her beautiful sun in Leo and her moon in Aries. And this to me feels like you've got this combination of earth that is about bringing into the tangible realm what you are freaking passionate about, what that fire lights up or sparks in you. And I want to talk to you about this piece around high achieving women and what your personal experience has been with being so connected to that spark, to that passion, and how you've experienced perhaps burnout or avoiding burnout and leaning into not being an extremist or a perfectionist, because I know with this high achieving phrase here, it can mean type A. It can mean someone that is a perfectionist, that is the all or nothing woman. And I'm curious what your personal experience has been with that and how you've navigated it.
Mm. This has shown up in so many different ways, in so many different seasons of life. But the first one and the most prominent one that comes to mind is like, for me, high achieving was always through school. I was a high achieving student. I always, like I would be upset if I didn't get a 95%, like I was that girl. And I think for me, like coming back to when I was in school, in university, um, I can't really do things half-assed. I either am like all in and I'm gonna give it my all, or like I don't really want to do it at all. And this is where it brought me to a point of burnout because throughout my like second and third years of university, I'd started up my Instagram page, which grew really slowly and then at one point started to grow really fast as well. And I was having opportunities and it started to become a business of its own. And so I was essentially full-time growing and running this business that I stumbled into, and also full-time in university at the same time. And because of that all or nothing, that perfectionism, that like high achieving mindset, I got myself to a place of burnout. And for me, burnout looked like having these weird, really intense panic and anxiety attacks that even the doctors didn't know what was happening. That lasted for 24 hours. It was a really intense experience, and I had multiple episodes of these because I was just so spread thin across all of the things that I was trying to hold. And so that was my experience or my dance with burnout, I guess I could say. And it came to a point where eventually, yeah, I did have to make a decision. Like I couldn't do it all. I wanted to be able to do it all. I'm sure most people that are high achieving do want to be able to do it all. You know, you want to be all these different roles and do it your best. But realistically, we only have so much energetic capacity to give outside of ourselves.
Mm.
Um, and so, yeah, it ended up leading me to a place where over a series of time, decided to drop out of school and pursue my entrepreneurship, which we can kind of get into a little bit more later. But yeah, that was my experience with burnout from all or nothing and high achieving mindset.
That's amazing. Okay, I knew that you had dropped out of university, but to hear that more fleshed out story is so cool. And it actually makes me think about your chart and your moon in particular. And I'm going to pull it up and show you here if you want to see what I'm talking about. So I'll share this screen. Can you see your chart here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about this probably a little bit on every single interview, but you've heard me say before that an iceberg represents the anatomy of the psyche. And what is above the surface represents that 5% conscious part of us. And what is below the surface represents that 95% subconscious. So in astrology, when I'm looking at someone's moon, that's where I look to the subconscious, that 95% that's below the surface. Your moon represents your emotional self, your inner landscape. And in this eighth house that is associated with Scorpio, and Scorpio is the ultimate truth seeker. So it's like that all or nothing that you talked about. It's like this massive part of you knew that you were living a little bit of bullshit when you were going to university and you couldn't stomach it. And you're like, what is this? Plus, with Aries here, both Aries and Scorpio with this eighth house association are incredibly intense. So this is that experience with the panic attacks and the burnouts. Your emotional body being governed by so much intensity is like the myelinated sheath around your nervous system burning up.
Mm.
And especially when you were living out of alignment, like it's interesting that I didn't even get to ask you what did it feel like to live out of alignment, and you so beautifully put that out there for us already, because for you it was those 24-hour lived panic experiences and knowing that something was off and this all or nothing approach and just being divided there. Is this kind of hitting home for you?
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me too, like when you talk about the intensity, the other way that that shows up and another way that I could sense that I was out of alignment was when I took a step back and looked at the whole picture of my life. I realized that the university side of things no longer lit me the fuck up.
Mm.
And I can't live a life like I just had to come to terms with the fact that I have no interest in living a life that's, mediocre. Like I don't want to settle for anything that feels mediocre. And she's like, hell yeah. Yeah, like it was an obvious decision for me when I took a step back and I was like, this is actually no longer feeling that same spark that maybe it once kind of did. If I'm being completely honest, it never really fully did. It was a path that I pursued because I thought that was what you're supposed to do. But coming back to realizing this was no longer actually lighting me up, well, obviously, I'm going to go for the path and explore the direction that is exciting to me right now and is calling to me. and yeah, see where that goes. I think that's like the best way to guide your decisions.
I love that you say that because Aries, 95% of who you are is Aries. Aries is the archetype of the child. Like life should be fun, life should be exciting, and you will always be embarking into new territory. Like Aries is the way shower. It is that confident archetype of taking the next step without knowing the entire staircase. And I love that that's a huge part of who you are. And I also just want to circle back around to how you said that your Instagram and your business started growing organically and kind of just like unfolded accidentally, it sounds like. And this makes me think of your son. So Leo sun, meant to be seen, right? Leo is regal. It's that royal vibe. It is courageous AF, but it's in your 12th house of the unconscious. It's almost like it did sneak up on you. You were naturally meant to be seen, but it wasn't a conscious endeavor for you necessarily or something that you pursued. It happened organically. So I love that you were speaking into that as well. I'm going to stop sharing here and just see if that brought up anything for you.
Totally. Yeah. So it's so interesting with even just starting my Instagram account. Like for all my life up till that point, I was terrified of being seen. Like I would shrink myself completely, which is an interesting, and I'm curious to hear your reflections from the astrological standpoint of that in terms of maybe like stepping into that identity of my son. But yeah, I was like very averse, I'd say, averse to being seen. And this was something that I pursued not so much for the sake of like fame or trying to grow a presence or anything like that. My intention going into it was more so I had found a passion and love for fitness, and it had really positively impacted my life. And I wanted to just share that with anybody who it might be able to impact in the same way. And then it became, something more. And I think it was a really cool, gradual way for me to get experience being seen and have those micro doses of that and be able to like kind of grow my tolerance for that. And even still, I feel like one of my most conflicting inner battles is that I absolutely love the spotlight. Like my Leo self is like, give me the spotlight, put me in front of a camera. I absolutely love it. Like I want to be seen. And then I also have a fear of being seen. And so there's like that little bit of a battle inside. And I think those forces kind of play against each other sometimes, but I'm also working towards, leaning more and more into my Leo identity there.
Yeah, okay. This is so beautiful. I think that, like, for me, even to hear you say that, it feels really good because how many people hold that dualistic desire and fear at the same time? And to hear you push through the fear, right, is so beautiful. And I know you, and I know you're harnessing your intellect all the time and creating safety at new levels of exposure all the time so that you can be seen. And I love that it wasn't a pursuit that felt superficial or for exterior purposes. You found something you were passionate about and wanted to share it with the world. This is that eighth house deep truth. This is the Aries passion. This is the Leo heart. And Leo, with this archetype of the king or royalty, it's a humanitarian energy. Absolutely. It is caring. Like, think about a king, and we can create contrast here. Doesn't give a shit about anyone else, is super dramatic, wants to be seen for the shadow aspects of Leo or the immature aspects of Leo. Or you've got the king and he's leaning into the light, the mature aspects of Leo. This is I'm not lonely at the top because everyone's coming with me vibes. This is I'm bringing my bitches with me. This is collaboration. This is I have something that I'm so deeply passionate and connected to. How can I hold this in? It's actually a disservice to the world not to be sharing what I know is powerful medicine. That's how you're showing up in your royal, regal Leo energy to be spreading this like message with the world. And does that sort of touch on what your question was? Like answering what the perspective of astrology was?
Yeah, yeah, I guess. Like, I guess I'm kind of just curious too. Is it typical for people? Because I know a lot of people will hear their signs, especially their sun sign, and feel that they don't resonate with it. And
Mm.
I feel like maybe it was you, maybe it was someone else that had said to me once that sometimes you don't come into this life fully embodying it, but it's your calling to step into that. Is there something along those lines that's true?
There's so much truth in everything that you just said. It's so funny. In the West, when we ask, what's your sign? We're always talking about your sun sign. In the East, when they ask what your sign is, they're talking about your moon sign. So, all of that is to say that we are actually all of the signs. We have all of them in our psyche, in our chart. We have all of the planets in our chart as well. Like when you think about it like that, we are we are a whole human. We are complex. We are multi-passionate. And you can start to dive in and see that there are so many more layers than just your one sun sign. And it's interesting too because you can actually play consciously with leaning into different archetypes within your chart. And who you are here to rise into is actually the energy of Virgo, of refinement, of deep servitude. And you're connecting with that in so many cool ways. But the ruler of your entire chart and your entire life, because you are a Virgo rising, is Mercury. And Mercury is so fucking cool, first of all. Mercury is all about the lower mind, how we consciously harness our intellect to create new fucking realities. Mercury is magical because in the creation of a different mindset, a different inner dialogue, you know what's possible for yourself. You've already done that for yourself, and I want to pull that apart for sure. But Mercury is responsible for creating entirely new worlds. Because if we lean on old ways of talking to ourselves and the inner critic and the perfectionist and the all or nothing gal, like fire her and start to see what happens. And I would actually love to talk about your mindset wisdom here and if that like does something inside of you when you hear that you literally are ruled by the archetype of the timeline hopper and the creator of new worlds. Like, what does that feel like to hear?
Like, duh. Like, we're not surprised. I think, and I mean, it comes back to what you were saying before. I have this very deeply rooted willingness to face my fears head on and, lean into the uncomfortable path. And that I think is the type of mindset that is the creator of new worlds that does, these things that you were talking about with Mercury being the ruler. So it makes sense.
Where would you, like, for someone just starting out with this who is really struggling with the inner critic, who is still in all or nothing, where do you recommend for your clients and for women that are struggling with this beginning step to start? Where do we start with that?
There's a few things. One of my favorite sayings is antidote your tendencies. So when your tendency is all or nothing, when you're very extremist, trying to soften a little bit more and be a little bit more okay with things being a little bit imperfect, things being good enough. That was really healing for me personally. So antidoting your tendencies, and that can show up in ways that are outside of that too. Like, for example, just in a very real life physical example, if you have a tendency to um, maybe skip the gym when you're not feeling like going, then in that moment, being able to have the self-awareness to notice that that's what you're doing and to choose different, antidote the tendency. Those that's this is the way that you start to create change in your life. And then another one too is like honestly just consciously choosing discomfort. That's something that I do too, is realizing, okay, I have like options here. I have a choice to make. Which one is gonna actually make me a little bit more uncomfortable? And actually just like facing that one and diving into that one intentionally because I seek the challenge. I seek the discomfort because I know that's the path that's gonna make me grow.
Have you, I want to like talk about, like to me, when you speak like this, I feel like you're Superwoman, and I'm like, this is incredible. But can you show me the Elise that has struggled, has chosen comfort, who has like been in the emotions and not necessarily been able to plug into the earth of like, let's show up and do this for myself?
Yeah. Oof. I feel like there's multiple examples of this. Um, I guess a more recent one. So my business, the Courage Project, which originally started as a podcast and the mission stayed the same. So I decided when I was launching my coaching business to keep the name. I had launched that business with a company, so I was kind of using their platform and underneath this company. And I launched it back in June of 2024, so just over a year ago. And within that, I poured my heart and soul and so much time and energy into creating this thing, but it never fully felt aligned, and it always felt like there was some tension. I struggled to attract the clients that were really aligned with me, and things just didn't flow very easily. And I was pushing through because I was like, okay, well, I'm starting a business, it's meant to be hard, and I just need to like get through this initial point. And I kept on facing this tension, facing this resistance, kind of like feeling like I was, coming up head on with just like these problems. And to me, like that's what feeling out of alignment or choosing comfort was, because I knew that it wasn't fully in alignment, but I had invested so much time, so much energy into this already that I wasn't willing to take the uncomfortable path of exploring if I needed to actually create some big systematic changes in my business. And so I just kept going in a place that was, comfortably uncomfortable, right? There's the discomfort of choosing something new and having to start again. And then there's the discomfort of staying where you are comfortable, but it's not fully aligned.
Mm.
And it came to a point where, yeah, the universe starts dropping little nuggets here and there, and then they start to get louder and louder, right? And I ended up at a point where I did actually burn down the entire business that I built. And I haven't spoken publicly about this yet, but it was a really difficult time in my life. Lots of tears, lots of fear. I didn't know what was next. Like I knew I was going to be rebuilding, but I didn't see a future where things could be different. So I was really leaning into trust, in just putting one foot in front of the other and trusting that the rest would unfold from there. And yeah, like now I relaunched that business in January of 2025 this year. So about 6 months ago or something like that. And it's been better than I could have ever imagined. Like I feel so deeply aligned in the work that I get to do, in the clients that I'm attracting to the work. And it's, yeah, like I just wake up every single day and I'm like, thank God for that period of time that was so difficult, that I felt like I was just like knees on the ground, because I would have never come to this place of feeling in alignment that I am in right now. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, that's my example.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's so funny because before our call, before you hopped on, I was thinking about how you're such a baby grandma. And like absolutely a baby grandma in that like I'm going to bed on time and I'm reading my spicy fiction novel and like total baby grandma, but also a baby grandma in this like old soul sort of way, in that you're not here to fuck around and waste time. And that for me, looking externally into your life, it seems like you've always been someone who's connected to mission, connected to purpose. So I love that you've been on this path of leaning into purpose. And I think that sometimes those reminders to listen to the inconvenience of our intuition are so valuable. And like, never again will you ignore for that long. Because let's be real, sometimes we do ignore, but the lessons do get louder when we ignore. And it's so, so important to be reminded like, ooh, we gotta listen.
Mhm. Yeah. And like that's just one example of many I can think of in my life that are similar stories. And that's just it, right? It's not so much about like being perfect, about I never stay comfortable and I'm always seeking discomfort. It's more so about your comeback rate of when you notice that you're in a place where you're just choosing comfort consistently over and over again, and you have become a little bit stagnant. Can you, notice that quickly and take action quickly? So again, like yeah, it's more about your comeback rate rather than being perfect about, always pursuing more and choosing discomfort and living this life that's very intense and all in. Like it doesn't have to be like that all the time too.
Yeah, yeah, there's different seasons that we live in, right? Um,
Mhm.
I always say that some people need to suffer longer.
Mm,
Because some people do. And I've been in a place where I got so sick of my own bullshit that that is what catalyzed change for me. And that period of time of living in comfort, let's call it, was so necessary and purposeful when I look back. But do I want to live there? No,
yeah.
absolutely
I
not.
mean, yeah, I'm such a big believer in that too. I was the same. Like a lot of the change that I've had has just become from me being sick of my own bullshit too. And I think there's something really valuable in having that experience to catalyze change. So many times, especially when you are somebody that's living life very intentionally and doing a lot of work and growing and all of that, like it can be so easy to look at the people around you and almost like try to help them change too. But sometimes people just need to have that realization on their own, and there's nothing you can do or say to help them change in the way that you see would be, out of love, a very like better way of living, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
But people need to have their own experience of just getting sick of their own bullshit. They need to suffer longer. They need to be in that and have that to be their fuel to actually make meaningful change in their lives sometimes.
Um, just have to say that lesson and the fact that you've learned that and you're embodying that already is so effing cool because as an Aries sun, that's also been a lesson of mine because Aries is this archetype of the warrior. And we are here to fight for something. Like you've got this Aries moon, a huge chunk of who you are and how your soul has chosen to experience life is with this warrior energy. You're fighting for something that you're connected to, that you care about, that you give a shit enough about to like share with the world. And sometimes, especially when that's being poured, when our energy is being poured in a direction that it's being wasted, that is exhausting. And when you can channel that and direct your fire and your passion and that Aries fight in a direction that's actually serving you and serving the world around you, because what's good for you is good for the world, then it can go so far. But it's being wasted when we try and serve people in a way that A, they're not asking for, and they're definitely not receiving. And to be like, okay, hands off, you're going to find your own way. And a lot of times it's with the people that are closest to us.
Yeah, and like talk about burnout. Like I've been there. I've done, and that's how I learned this lesson too, Like I learned these things through stumbling through it myself. But like, yeah, burnt myself out trying to force change on people that are close to me too, and it just doesn't work that way. You gotta take a step back, and often, like you said, the best way to support other people in changing is by just focusing on yourself. And people see that and are inspired, and they'll come to you and seek that. They want to get a dose of what you're on.
Yeah, I love this too. It's like the Virgo Earth. I'm just gonna put my head down, rock me. And like people feel that on an energetic level, and that's what attracts people to you is you're embodying something that they desire to have in their life. And it's less about trying to like use that Aries immature proving or fighting to be seen. And it's more like, actually, I'm just gonna do me and sit back and wait and talk about like self-worth. You know what I mean? And for to be connected to that part of us that can sit back and wait for people to come when we are in these places of coaching or serving or supporting, because it can be, like we said, a huge drain when we're trying to be heard by people that just, you can't be your mama's guru kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, totally resonate with that.
I love it. Can you share? I know that you, speaking of pushing the envelope and stretching your comfort edges, can you share what's going on in life right now and how good it feels to be living in alignment?
Mm. Yeah, I guess kind of tying in the theme of like comfort and discomfort as well. I currently am living nomadically, as you said, And this is the second time that I've done this. The first time was a little bit different in terms of energy and structure to it. I didn't have any structure, which was really difficult for me. But anyways, so after that time, I kind of told myself I would never do that again because it was really difficult. We talk about flow and living in flow and living the best life when you have freedom. But to me, I was traveling in a way that was so unstructured that I had no sense of freedom because I was constantly imprisonated to making the daily decisions of where am I sleeping, what am I eating? Like you can't get beyond that level of your basic needs if that's all you're ever focusing your energy on. So, anyways, after I had that experience, finally came home, I was like, get me into routine. I don't want to do that ever again. And I mean, Virgo self, she loves her routines. What can I say? And um, fast forward about like a year and a half later, I had settled into a life that was really comfortable and started creating a life for myself back home in Canada. And um, this trip was something that I planned to be 3 months. And I was honestly like really excited for that timeline because then it meant I can go, I can enjoy myself, and then I can come back to comfort after, right? Like it felt like a good compromise. And it was difficult to adjust to being away. I had a lot of change all at once. I packed up and moved out of my apartment, put all my belongings into storage. I was packing up for two separate trips. I was going to Nepal to track Mount Everest base camp, and then to Bali to live and work here for 2 months, two very different climates. Um, all at the exact same time. Finally got myself on that plane, but yeah, it was a lot of an adjustment for me in ways that I didn't quite anticipate, settling into this new lifestyle. And at the beginning of my time, even while I was here in Bali, I was kind of like, I don't think I really want to, do this again. I'm not loving this. And time goes on and you adapt to, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, but that new baseline, right? Your baseline for normal and what you can hold, the capacity that you can operate at just raises to meet the new level that you're stepping into. And now where I'm at is like in a place where I'm not actually planning to go home. And I haven't talked about this either publicly. So this is the first time this is kind of going out in the world. But yeah, I am currently in the process of planning my next steps. I'm gonna just continue living this nomadic lifestyle. I'm gonna travel month by month and find that compromise, right? This is something that you learn through doing things, what works best for you. Like, I don't want to have this big, long, open-ended thing of moving around all the time, but having a month in one place where I can create a little sense of routine and home and then still be exploring a new place and living a different lifestyle surrounded by people who are similar minded to me and who live openly as well. That is my ideal lifestyle. And I had a meditation the other day that I was sitting and reflecting on thinking about my future self and what a life of alignment felt like. And I realized I'm living it. Like, this is it. And it feels so good. And it was something that I never would have known was true for myself until I got here and started to experience it for myself.
That is so inspiring. That is so, so inspiring. I know I need to book a call with you and speak about Bali. Johnny, my husband, and I are always talking about chatting with you specifically about it because you've been there twice now. And it's just so exciting to hear you leaning into what home and foundation and groundedness can look like when you create the routine and the structure for yourself in an embodied way. And full disclosure, I've already recorded day 3 of this immersion, and I think you're going to love that conversation because we dive into the energetics of masculine and feminine and how our masculine creates container for our feminine to flow wildly within. And it's sort of like the example of raising a child. If the child has absolutely no boundaries, they're going to be a little wild and not a lot of safe. But when they have boundary, they can be nuts within it and have so much fun and still feel safe. It's like being at the playground with a fence there, you know? So the masculine can hold our feminine while she flows and does her thing, her creative, full-bodied, fun being experience, while, the structure, this Virgo part of you that's like, I like to brush my teeth when I get up in the morning, and I like to know what I'm eating in the morning because I'm not a fan of decision fatigue and all these pieces. There's so much to it. And also, it feels good to know that you're showing up for yourself with consistency. And actually, that kind of segues to my next question about consistency over perfectionism and your experience with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, don't get me wrong, like I still struggle with this stuff daily. Um, but I think having, again, all of this stuff really is rooted in self-awareness. So you have to be able to notice where you are out of alignment, or even just where you're doing these certain things, when you're acting out of perfectionism, or when you are acting out of these kind of tendencies that we have. Um, But for me, like consistency over perfectionism, I would say that's shown up for me a lot around this trip too. Especially in the lead up before I was leaving. As I mentioned, it was a lot all at once, and my nervous system was shook. Um, but I was able to lean on consistency in terms of my routines. So, going to the gym, having my meditations, having my nutrition, those are my baseline, like kind of just daily standards. Helps me be functioning as a my best self. And I had to negotiate what consistency looked like for me, because I was not in a place where I was able to uphold what consistency had looked like for me the months prior to that. I had to scale back my sessions in the gym, actually scale back to, instead of going to the gym, going to classes, so I didn't have to have the thought of what I'm doing. Um, and just like making sure that, okay, what is a non-negotiable for me, and nutrition was one of those. So making sure I was getting my meal prep in, sleep, just having those non-negotiables, and then also being able to compromise and sacrifice some things that are negotiable and can be flexible within the season. And I think it just comes down to actually like having the space and awareness to sit and decide what those things are for you.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, like to me, I know that I have such a strong foundation of like hella good consistency under my belt. And so when I'm in seasons that I know are going to be temporary, I can come back to antidoting my tendency to, try to force through and push myself to do all of the things at once. And I can actually just, pump the brakes a little bit more and allow consistency to look a little different for a little while and then change that again. We're never locked in any one definition of anything in our lives.
Mhm. You are dropping some profound wisdom, my friend. And full disclosure for listeners, I've been working with Elyse for nearly 6 months, and onboarding with the Courage Project and you at the time when I did, of course, was so divinely timed. My word for the beginning of 2025 was fortification. And holy, has my baseline standards up leveled. I've never been so consistent in my life. And you've held me in a way that has been firm and loving and honest. And also, there's been softness there with this wisdom around the wholeness of who we are, because we're not just showing up with an open schedule and a desire to meet our physical goals or whatever your goals may be for joining the Courage Project or something like it. And I think that that reminder was so important for me, and it almost needed to come again and again and again, because I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a wife, I'm a creative woman. I have goals. And I think that there was an attachment as to when my ultimate goal was going to arrive. And that doesn't feel good. And it's also not the relationship that I desire to create with the ways in which I show up for my body, for myself. I want to love the journey. I don't want to just reach a destination. I've never felt stronger. I've never trusted myself more deeply because I'm doing what I say I will do. Like, on so many levels, this has infiltrated my life and also helped me to most recently redefine what success gets to look like. Instead of pedestaling me, some future version of self, I get to take her down and say, what if I am successful already? I've literally just said all this beautiful stuff to you about a baseline standard, like up level, upgrade, expansion. And I trust myself deeply and I feel strong. And I remember before giving birth to my daughter wondering, like, am I ever going to be this strong again? Am I ever going to feel this tough again? Stronger. Like, I'm telling you, there's so many beautiful things that I could go on about here, but I kind of want to connect this to a piece of your chart too, because what you're speaking into has so much Venusian wisdom. And if you look at a natal chart, right where your sun is in Leo, the opposite of Leo, let me double check this. I'm like having a brain fart right here. Yeah, okay, okay. So I'm going to back up. The opposite of Leo is this sixth house, um, ruled by Virgo, and also this Aquarian theme of like doing it your own way. So not only do you have your ascendant in Virgo, which is that earthly, gorgeous energy that you have. You also have your day-to-day life and rituals that's associated with Virgo and like doing it your own way. So, this energy of earth in your chart, like if we were to take a planet and a symbol and drop it across from your sun, it would be in this area of your life, which is about consistency and also presence. And what you said just there about there being this need to be aware, of your tendencies, of when you're staying in discomfort, of when you're all these things, right? I just find that interesting. Does that make sense? I probably confused you a little bit at the beginning there, but
Yeah, it's as you always say so beautifully. I feel like you drawing that chart and just like putting up a visual to it is more permission to be who I am.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, for anyone listening, you do not need tools like astrology, but oh my God, are they ever fun and affirming when you dive into this work? Is there anything you want to ask me about your chart?
Ooh. Hmm. It's funny because last time we had a reading, I had asked you this question, and I almost want to ask you the same question, but maybe in a different way. But I'm curious about pieces of my chart that maybe people don't talk about so much. We always talk about your sun and your rising and your moon. But what's another part that doesn't get spoken about a lot, but does have a big impact?
Mm, so many things. I'm going to pull up your chart. It honestly depends on the chart and like everyone's chart is so unique. For example, you've got you got two planets and an asteroid in your fourth house of Sagittarius. Your soul has chosen for you to have Sagittarius energy and themes around the lessons that you're here to learn. An empty house doesn't mean that you don't have Scorpio. It just means that there's not a lot of concentrated energy here in this lifetime. So for you, you've also got this adventurer energy in you, this truth seeker, this philosopher, this curious, optimistic part of you that is about expansion and breaking through the glass ceiling and going to quite literally far off lands. Sagittarius is the archetype of the adventurer, but also the student turned teacher. So here you are with this like with this energy in the place in your life that is about you and the part of you that people don't see because it's in the bottom of your chart. It's the deepest parts of who you are. It's connected to roots and ancestry and home and belonging. So it's really interesting that here you are at a time in your life where you've gone off to Bali thinking, I'm not going to do this to myself again, but some part of you has called you back there. And now you're there and you've settled. You've gone through the nervous system dysregulation where you're like, is this the right choice? It's so easy to doubt. And you've sort of been through that ride, and on the other side of that discomfort ride, here you are now choosing to stay in a nomadic situation. And this Sagittarius, like home, this part of you, this really deep calling, is fucking loving it, you know? And it's in opposition to Saturn in the 10th house of career and calling and the mind. There's Gemini here, right? So there might have been some inner battle between your intellect and how you think home should look or what roots look like. And I actually feel so honored to be having this discussion right now, the whole thing, but in particular, this part, because I am literally dreaming and thinking, and there's parts of me that are feeling quite ashamed of my inability to stay put. And on one hand, I'm so proud that I've leaned into what excites me and that we've uprooted completely. And for anyone listening, I'm currently living in a fifth wheel on Vancouver Island after selling my house, and my husband and I have essentially lived the same lifestyle. We've owned three homes now, always with a basement suite so that we can rent it out and have our money make us money. But eventually that lifestyle just felt lonely and soul draining, and I did not want this giant house to keep up with. But the way that I grew up was this little girl that viewed like a woman staying at home and having the opportunity to raise her kids and being so fulfilled by that. And I think many of us have that visual. So right now I'm in this deconditioning around what home looks like and what roots get to look like. So watching you and witnessing you have so much joy around this experience of creating home within yourself and taking home wherever you are around the world is really inspiring. So I just wanted to share that with you, like a little peep into my own life. But yeah, does that sort of answer your question? Like we could go on. There's so much in your chart that is so important. Another area that we could speak about is Mercury in the house of the unconscious, right next to your sun, basically. Um, and Mercury is the lower mind. It's how we communicate, it's how we think and we speak, and it's your chart ruler. So for you, paying attention to what Mercury is doing in real time, like this is just a snapshot at the exact time you came Earthside. But if you start paying attention to what Mercury is doing in real time, watch your life shift into greater alignment, even though you're living the fuck out of your chart already. If you pay attention to your chart ruler, and Mercury is one of those planets that moves more quickly. So there's going to be more retrogrades throughout the year, which are not a bad thing at all, especially for someone like you that has the awareness around what slowness and presence can do for you. Because a retrograde is always about a reflect, a review, a refinement process. And you, as a Virgo rising, are here to always move towards excellence and refinement. So working with Mercury through the ebbs and flows, reassessing, reevaluating, having those periods of maybe even like a sacred ceremony during a retrograde. Like, ooh, what's going on? What are you rethinking? You know, that can be something for you too. So there's so much about a chart that is incredibly significant. And that's not even touching on the relationship between the planets, because where a planet is in a sign is important, but also what is the interaction between that planet and another planet? Are they butt up against each other? Are they opposing each other? Are they creating a square? Are they besties and they're helping one another? So there's lots of different layers that you can look at within a chart that just gets more and more intimate and more affirming and helps you unlock, because our chart isn't some sort of path of destiny that we have to live out. Like, you get this, but I'm going to say it for everyone. We have sovereignty, we have personal power, we have free will, and we get to choose how we utilize the different energetic cycles that we're living out in real time and the energy that we come earthside with. So that's my ramble.
I gotta say, Kara, like I've said this to you a million times, but I gotta say it to everyone listening. You have such a beautiful way of taking these topics. Like, I'm sure if anyone's listening that's not really familiar with these terms, like it can be like a lot. What's Mercury and what's all these things? But you have such a beautiful way of taking these huge concepts and making them so easily digestible and understandable to just the average ear. And that's what I love so much about your approach to astrology. I think astrology can be such a prescriptive thing and it's such a out there sort of way of thinking, but you take it right down to this earth and you give the empowerment of exactly like you said, you have personal power, you have a sovereignty in being able to choose, and you give us that option as well and that empowerment. So I just had to acknowledge you for that. You're so amazing.
Thank you. You're tooting my horn for me. I appreciate that reflection so, so much, and it will never get old. So if you ever repeat yourself, like, I'm here for it.
Will do, guarantee you.
Okay, you are so amazing. I think we're getting near that hour mark. Is there anything else you want to share or anything that you want listeners to know if they're on their own journey of alignment?
I think we came back to what you said at the beginning around like starting points and just like something tangible to take away. Whenever you're trying to seek change in your life or you desire growth, I think even alignment, if you're seeking greater alignment in your life, the best place to start is with yourself, and specifically, I think with your physical vessel. This is a lot of why I do what I do. I'm on a mission to help women reclaim their power and take back ownership of their lives to create meaningful change in their lives. And to me, that starts with your body. I see physical fitness as the gateway to greater self-growth because it's such a tangible, easily accessible entryway. So if you are seeking change, if you are seeking growth, any sort of deeper alignment in your life, which I mean, I'm pretty sure we all are, start there. Start with your body because that just snowballs and leads you step by step into the next thing and the next thing. You know, once you start caring for your physical body and feeling more energized and more strong and more vibrant, then you start to get curious about, okay, so where else can I take this? Why doesn't my mindset align with my new body that I've been creating? And these little bits of curiosity start to guide the way into a more empowered, more just self-guided life. So that's something that I think I want to leave you with.
I love that. And Ayurveda always teaches that the body is the gateway to the other bodies. And what you do to one body, you do to them all. So strength in the physical absolutely translates to strength in the mental. And sometimes they go hand in hand. Like, will you show up and build consistency in your physical vessel if your mind isn't also on board? So I absolutely agree. It can be an adventure of all of the bodies caretaking your whole self. And you know, I love what you're doing in the world. So, again, thank you so, so much for being here. I would love for you to share with everyone where they can find you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. Where you can find me, the best place to find me is my Instagram. It's at Elyse Laurine. So it's ELYSELAURINE. I don't know. Maybe Kara, you can put it in somewhere if there's like a show notes or something like that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm so happy to connect. If you come from here, send me a message. Let me know and I'd love to chat.